I'm Brett Bursey. I'm the executive director of the South Carolina Progressive Network's Education Fund. It's a 26-year-old policy and research organization. It started out as nonpartisan, but we are actually now feeling more anti-partisan as we come to greater understanding of what George Washington warned us about, not to start parties, or we'll end up with two that fight amongst themselves for money and power. And I'm old enough to have watched that happen here in South Carolina at the university in the 60s when there were no black elected officials that could be sitting with you. In 1970, the United Citizens Party forced the Democratic Party to integrate. By 1994, that redistricting in 1990, Phil Levinas, a good friend of mine, a champion of democratic issues in this government, in the Senate for 30 years here, he watched 4 redistricting processes happen in 1990 in the first 2 years. It wasn't until 92 that the new maps went into effect and the Republicans started gaining dominance. The Republicans took control of the House in 92. So they went from, the little handout I gave you that's got the color boxes in it, the balance 2 before the maps kicked in was 73 Democrats and 50 Republicans. By 94, it had flipped to 62 Republicans. In 92, Gilda Cobb Hunter and Joe Neal came into office, and I was already doing civil rights and social justice work, and it was a great hurricane of fresh air because they're the 2 representatives I've worked with for nearly, well over 30 years now, that actually believe in small d democracy. And so what I want to do today is to not talk about all the problems that you've heard about the system that you've inherited, and I'm not going to blame any one of you for not being an actual small d Democrat, regardless of whether there's an R or a D next to your name, because it's a process that you have inherited, and it's one that you think you can't change because it's woven into the Constitution. And so what I want to do is to give you an opportunity to let the people pick the politicians. Because what we're doing now, this will be the 4th redistricting I've watched that's so transparent, it's just bad theater, folks. And that if you don't speak up against it, you are then part of it, and you do not trust the people. And this is not, unfortunately, a democracy. We have, right now, the least competitive, amongst the least competitive elections in the United States. This is the only state with no laws regulating the business that you do governing redistricting. The United States of America is ranking way down in the life quality charts of the 34 nations that have better turnout than we do. We are not leading the world in democracy. We are not practicing democracy. In 2018, I worked on, and Cobb Hunter introduced legislation for a Citizens Redistricting Commission. Truly nonpartisan Citizens Redistricting Commission. You, the 3/4 of your body, 2/3 of your body, are the only people that can change the way we choose our own politicians. So until you step up and accept that responsibility, we're going to be left playing a game that fewer and fewer people are participating in. As I mentioned, there were no black elected officials when I registered to vote, and there were none until 1970. By 1994, the diminution of participation of people in color started, and we now have probably a cap of 44, 45 seats. No matter what you do, no matter how you rearrange your maps, you're not going to be able to make a competitive outcome where the people will be able to elect somebody that represents their values or the best policies, as opposed to an R or a D before or after their name. 70% of your colleagues in the House and Senate are the only name on people's ballot to choose for Senate or House of Representatives. Vladimir Putin only got 69%. So what we're doing now, we used to make fun of about Soviet-style elections. I've been living in Lexington County for a long time now. 26 years, there was only one person on the ballot that I could vote for House. And my House member now tells me that, all we have to do is get more people to register to vote. No, it won't, unless we change the reapportionment of people to be competitive. What you're leaving out of your metric when you draw your lines is competition. What each one of us, you and your children and me and my family, will benefit from is having the person that wins the election have to represent people's hopes and dreams that don't look like them Right now, we've got 13.5% of the voters are electing the majority of the body of the 170 in the Republican primary. 13.5%. I've given you a study that the University of South Carolina did for us in 2018. They talked to nearly 900 people. The counties are on the back page. The inside back page shows that 62.5% of Republicans, 65% of citizens that they interviewed say that you, the legislators, should not draw the maps. You're playing a losing hand. I'm giving you an opportunity to come out and tell your constituents that you will support putting a constitutional amendment on the ballot, hopefully in 2022, if not 2024. We still haven't passed the Equal Rights Amendment, so these things take time. But you're running out of time to be able to restore any kind of faith in a judicious and democratic society. So put a constitutional question on the ballot that lets the people pick the voters pick the politicians, and let them vote on it. If you don't trust the people to vote on that, I think you've let us all down. I don't know if you have any questions, but I'm certainly standing by at all times available, because this obviously is one of my favorite subjects I've been working on, and I'm just really sticking with it because it's worth the fight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bursey.